What's up, ladies and gentlemen? One of the more intriguing prospects in the 2025 NBA draft class is Kam Jones from Marquette University. He's kind of a tweener between a point guard and a shooting guard. On NBA.com for the NBA Combine, he was listed as a point guard, but I've seen him listed as high as a first-round pick in some of the mock drafts. I think he's dipped just a little bit recently, but the fact that anybody has him in the first round is honestly kind of surprising for a multitude of reasons. But before I get into those reasons, let's talk about his strengths. Let's give him his flowers before I talk about his weaknesses. And his strengths, starting with his confidence. He's a very confident player. He makes a lot of really tough shots. So he's a very confident player, and it kind of rubs off on his teammates with confidence and swagger and composure that he has out on the court. He's got a really good touch, whether it's floaters, runners, scoop shots around the hoop, especially with that left hand. He's really crafty, and he just has a great feel and great touch around the hoop. He's a high IQ player, super smart. He's a good passer, hits his teammates with accurate passes, and then he just has a really high level feel for the game. Similar to the Europeans in the NBA right now, where they do not get sped up, they play at their own tempo. And Kam Jones in particular, he is a guy who's kind of like the old man at the YMCA. He just never gets rushed. He gets to his spot, puts the ball in the hoop. The big difference between Kam Jones and the Europeans is the fact that Kam Jones' fundamentals, in particular on his shot mechanics, are not quite where the Europeans are. So his draft projection, even being in the second round, kind of surprises me, but people having him as high as a first round pick surprises me for a multitude of reasons, including the fact that he's a tweener, like between a point guard and a shooting guard, right? At the NBA Combine, he was listed as a point guard. He measured in at 6'3", which isn't bad for a point guard, but I look at him as a true tweener, but he's a below average athlete for the NBA. That's the reality of it. So he was towards the middle of the pack, or just kind of right behind the middle of the pack for the speed and agility testing. But you look at his vertical jump. He had the worst max vertical jump for any point guard or shooting guard at the Combine at 31.5 inches. And he had the second lowest standing vert at 24.5 inches for any point guards. And that was the lowest amongst any shooting guards. So he does compensate for this in his game a little bit with his creativity around the hoop, especially with that left hand and his lack of length and the explosion. He does compensate with creativity, but a lot of his buckets come from taking it to the hoop and getting cut off and redirected because he doesn't have the athleticism or explosion to get right to that hoop. He'll get cut off 2, even 3 times, and then he'll get to a spot and put up a shot. Just at the NBA level, I don't know which team will give him the reins to dribble the ball that much. And I just think that style of play will be so much harder. But he's also extremely left-hand dominant. That is something that we'll talk about a little bit. And then his shooting form. His mechanics are flawed. And what's amazing about the fact that he has flawed mechanics is he shot 38.3% from 3 his first 3 years of college, which is incredible. A lot of people do say that free throws are indicative of your shooting ability. He's a career 67% free throw shooter throughout college. But I tell you what, I think that touch I talked about, he's got a great touch. He's probably worked his ass off in the gym, and he's a really confident guy. That's probably what has helped him overcome his flawed mechanics, right? But the problem with spending all that time in the gym is you work on flawed mechanics. It gets further ingrained. So if you ever want to change it, it becomes really tough. And his coach, Shaka Smart, he's probably looking at it and saying, hey, like, sure, his form's broken, but the results are there. Why would I fix it? Kam Jones, there's a video of Kam Jones shooting, and I could probably slow it down for you a little bit, but to me, it looks like he's shooting with 2 hands. Like, one, his shooting position on the ball is really weird, right? He's left-handed, so this hand, it's okay to have a little elbow, but he has a total chicken wing, and his hand is kind of like this on the shot. That's concerning. And then if you look at his follow-through versus a guy like Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, which is a tough comparison, but you look at Steph Curry's follow-through, how textbook it is, versus Kam Jones. I mean, I coach 8th grade basketball. I had a team full of kids who shot with 2 hands. Like,
And he may not necessarily be shooting with 2 hands, but that guide hand is definitely doing a little bit too much work for him.
during Kam Jones' sophomore year, he was struggling from the three-point line to start the season, and then as the season progressed, he tuned up a shot a little bit, made some changes on his own, now with the coaching staff. And Coach Shaka Smart basically just said, there's an article, actually, I'll just read the quote to you. He said, Kam Jones, one of the best shooters I've ever seen. He actually shoots a lot better when he puts more arc on his shot. It drives me nuts because he shoots with different arc on different shots, but he's one of the best shooters that I've ever been around. And you got to give a guy leeway to do what he thinks is going to allow the ball to go into the basket. One thing that I know with Cam is that he's a better shooter than I am. So if he wants to make adjustments on his shot, I'm going to let him do that. Bro, you're not his friend. You're his coach. What are you talking about? You don't let... I mean, Kam Jones, this video of him shooting in slow motion, he's 21 years old in that clip, I'm pretty sure. Like, you're the coach. You don't let him just shoot how he wants to do. I understand the results were there, so you let him do his thing, but it caught up with him his senior year, right? His senior year, the first 11 games, he shot great. And even when the shots were going in, his mechanics were flawed. Like, look at this clip of him against Maryland. Like, what even is that?
What the hell is even that?
For the first 11 games of the season, he shot 41.2% from 3 and 75% from the free throw line. So he got off to a good start. But the rest of the year, he shot 27.7% from 3 and 58.9% from the free throw line. The rest of the season, which totaled for 31.1% from 3 and 64.8% from the free throw line. Not what you want from a guy who's a tweener and is not that athletic when looking at an NBA prospect. And talking about inconsistencies, Kam Jones made 36.7% of his dribble pull-up jumpers from 3 entering a senior season, which is a good number. But he only made 20% of those on 70 attempts as a senior. Why is he so inconsistent? In my opinion, my hypothesis, it's flawed shooting mechanics, right? And even in his numbers at the Combine, there were some inconsistencies. He shot pretty well overall, but I believe he went 12 of 30 from the corner. Like, I just think he's going to be a guy where maybe one game he pops off, but then the next game he's going to be terrible. And you can kind of see that if you dive into his game-by-game stats in his senior year. Okay, yeah, he went 4 of 8 one game, then the next game he goes 1 of 9. It's just, he's got to tune up these mechanics if he wants to have a career, because I really think he needs to be a knockdown shooter to prove me wrong. Like, he needs to flick at a super high level to make up for his deficiencies and his weaknesses, right? So he had a pre-draft workout. There's a video on YouTube where we can see his most recent mechanics, and I don't think he's shooting with 2 hands as much. But let's take a look at this video and get a further look at his up-to-date mechanics. All right, let's start with this clip here. So let's take a look at his mechanics. I've been saying that they're flawed. Let's see if I can prove it. So Kam Jones gets the ball, catches, brings it down. Look where his hand placement is on this. Like, that's crazy. Like, he's a left-handed shooter, so for lefty, like, usually you have your left hand under the ball. He has a little bit of or he definitely has a chicken wing where that shooting hand comes out way too much. If it comes out a little bit, it's fine, but you're taught to have your elbows in. His elbows come quite a bit out, but look at the positioning of the ball. The ball is right, he puts it right in front of his face, and his hands are like this well into the shot, and somehow his hand slides over mid-shot, and he definitely releases like this, then he kind of flicks his hand right. It's a bizarre thing, but we'll get some still shots and I'll post some screenshots, but it looks like that ball is right in front of his hand, or head. Then it slides over, and it looks like his ring finger and his pinky are doing most of the work here. You can see how far over his hand is not straight at the hoop. It's totally angled to the right here. That's not what you want, just having pure, like, fluid mechanics. That's a flawed jumper. All right here, simulating some ball screen. All right. Look where that hand is. That's not where you want your shooting hand, and he's in the air. That's crazy. Ball right in front of his face. Hands are like this. You want your hands like that, or for me, it's easier as a right hand. You want your shooting hand under the ball. You don't. I mean, they teach you to have your elbows in. If you have a little bit, that's fine, but you want to have your elbows in. There's going to be some bend on your shooting hand or your guide hand, but he has the ball. He's in mid-air like this. How did he shoot so well for 3 years doing this? Is actually incredible. But I think the ball kind of rotates. His elbow's way out there. Like, wow. But then his hand's on the ball like this, right? It's not under the ball. It's to the side a little bit. And it looks like that ring finger is really doing a lot of work. But he flicks his, then somehow he flicks his hand and he finishes with this follow through on the right side. Ball in front of his face. Hand you see that how that hand was totally, while he's in midair, it moves on that ball. It's not just one fluid up. His shooting hand, like if he was right-handed, it moves under that ball. And his elbow's still out and his hand is still angled. Not straight under the ball, not straight to the hoop. It is angled out with that elbow pointing way out. And then, yeah, he shoots it like this. And then I think he somehow snaps his hand the other way. Like he's positioned like this, but to compensate, if he shot like that, it would go way left. So to compensate for that, he like flicks his hand right really quickly. Like, look at that. He's leaving the ground right now with his hands like this around the ball. And not under the ball. The hands are on the side of the ball. Ball's right at his face. Elbow pretty far out. But you see how he kind of snaps his hand back right, I think, to adjust. And you see that hand goes here. It's not straight. That follow through is not straight at the hoop. It is to the right. Let's see at this angle. So you see here. Yeah, wow, does he snap that thing to the right. So right here, you can see it, like, see how weird, obviously he's got weird hand positioning on the ball. And if he just shot it without compensating, he really just snaps his hand to the right-hand side. So obviously weird hand position, but then look how he just snaps that hand to the right. Like it just, arm just kind of contorts a little bit. But then he finished with his follow through straight after it originally goes here. I think someone probably told him like, hey, you want your hand to be going towards that hoop, not way to the right. Yeah, you see how far right this shooting hand goes? Oof. All right. Think you guys get the point. This will be my last one. Last one right here. All right, I think you guys get the point. This is my last one right here. So this is just a mid-range jumper. Step back. Then watch how his arm snaps to compensate it. Like it snaps to the right-hand side. You see that follow through? We can watch it a little bit quicker so you guys can see that snap. We'll watch it at 0.75. Really just snaps. You see that? That's crazy. He is working so hard to make these shots. He's making life so difficult on himself. And then, I mean, it's just too easy. That's crazy. That's crazy form that your shooting hand is at that spot on the ball. That's insane. How the ball slides mid jumper. His hand goes from side to somewhat under the ball. That just spells inconsistency to me. When you have that much stuff going on, instead of one fluid motion just going up, he has his hand starting here, and then midair it slides over. That's just a lot of hard work. Working harder, not smarter. So to finish this off, flawed mechanics. He's going to need to fix these mechanics, and I'll leave some still shots, some screenshots. You guys can let me know what you think.
Flappin' Flotsam, what's that?
According to, I think it's Babcock Hoops, they said he's got a smooth and consistent shooting form. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. It looks like his shooting mechanics have changed quite a bit over time, but it just shows a lack of ball knowledge. But yeah, my conclusion with his deficiencies, he's going to need to be a knockdown three-point shooter. It's going to be very, very tough for him to make it at the NBA. So he's going to have to fix those mechanics. And after years of shooting a certain way, it's hard to fix those. And now let's pivot a little bit to another thing that I think is a problem, is he's very left-hand dominant. It's actually comical. In some of these clips, like, the right hand is wide open, but he finds a way to get back left. It reminds me of the Drake and Josh theme song. He finds a way to get to his left hand. And another thing just to mention is Kam Jones actually kind of takes advantage of the fact that he is limited athletically. And he knows he's going to get cut off, and then he just spins back and gets to his left hand. So he'll go right, knowing he's going to get cut off, and then he counters with his left. But talking about his athleticism a little bit, right? He lacks it. We saw it at the NBA Combine with his testing. His former teammate from Marquette, was at the Combine in 2024, outperformed him in every single category outside of three-quarter sprint, where they tied at 3.27 seconds. But Kam Jones is a guy where I don't remember seeing him dunk a basketball once. He was listed at 6'5" at Marquette. He's 6'3", played a ton of minutes, super successful career. I don't remember a single dunk for him. Maybe I'm wrong, but he definitely wasn't throwing down a lot of dunks. And there's a clip that I find a little bit concerning. Derek Queen from Maryland, the center who tested absolutely horrible at the NBA Combine this year. You watch him get switched on to Kam Jones. He cuts him off multiple times, and ultimately Jones does use his craftiness and skill to finish despite that. But Kam Jones really has to earn his buckets. There's no such thing as an easy bucket for him. We see him get cut off quite a bit 2 or 3 times, and he relies on counter moves. And I saw an NBA comp for Kam Jones, and this just made me, these experts, don't trust these experts. There's a lot of lack of ball knowledge out there. That's why I'm coming at you with common sense and just, yeah, some logic here. This is unbelievable. But I saw a guy named Kevin O'Connor, who's an NBA expert, compare Kam Jones to Dante DiVincenzo. And I'll just explain why that's so mind-blowing. But talking about their games a little bit. Kam Jones is a slow, probing, methodical, crafty player who relies on counter moves to get his buckets, right? Kind of an inconsistent shooter, but Dante DiVincenzo, especially coming out of Villanova, he came off the bench on the championship team as just a bundle of energy, of athletic energy, getting buckets, utilizing both hands. He could get downhill, didn't need counter moves. He could just get past his defenders, and then he could finish through contact, above contact, while Kam Jones stays down low. Like, their games are total opposites, and comparing Kam Jones to a right-handed player is also bizarre because it's like Kam Jones' identity is kind of being a left-handed player. If there's anyone I would compare him to, it'd be Tyler Kolek, because Kam Jones is a little bit bigger, Kolek's a little bit more athletic. Kolek's more of a true point guard, but both of them are super left-hand dominant players, and both of them are similar athletically. Both are really crafty, smart, have a variety of different finishes around the hoop with floaters, runners, scoop shots. That's, I think, his player comp. Getting back to Dante DiVincenzo for a second. This is so absurd. I'll really hammer this home right here. And I saw someone make a YouTube video of this too. It's just, what are we thinking? Like, the only thing that I could rationale for this guy making this this comp is like, okay, Kam Jones, he's not very athletic. I can't think of anybody. I'll just throw out some random white dude for his player comp. But like, Dante DiVincenzo's a freak athlete. Like, at the NBA Combine, he was unbelievable. He had a 42-inch vertical, which was tied for the highest in his draft class. That vertical is 10.5 inches higher than Kam. His standing vert was the highest in his draft class at 34.5 inches, 10 inches higher than Kam Jones. DiVincenzo also finished amongst the best in his class in lane agility, three-quarter sprint. I digress, but sometimes I hate the internet and I hate these experts, right? And you look at the clips from the national championship game, DiVincenzo is just so much different than Kam Jones. What a bizarre comparison. But my conclusion, and I'm not trying to bash Kam Jones and say that he has no chance. I think, you know, a lot of times it's luck and fit. If he goes to the Miami Heat and plays for Spoelstra, I bet he has a successful career. But I think he's going to need to work on his mechanics and be a knockdown three-point shooter to play in the NBA. And if he doesn't tune up those mechanics, I have a hard time seeing him being an NBA player, because as an NBA team, do you really want to take a tweener who's 6'3", not athletic, and will likely be a project if you choose to improve his shooting mechanics? Like, he consistently in college was getting cut off multiple times. What's going to happen in the NBA? Like, I just don't know how that game really translates, but a lot of people do see it translate. So time will tell. The intrigue does come from his elite feel for the game and his variety of finishes around the hoop, but like, his inconsistency from shooting, that terrible shooting year as a senior, I have my concerns. But that is all I got for you. If you agree or disagree, let me know down in the comments, and I will be coming at you with more basketball content like this. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and I will see you next time.